28-13 roll with the complimentary plays in the NFL, the most recent one being the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I've got three more NFL selections for the Sunday card, including the Chiefs, Raiders, and the Ravens and Chargers on this video. Hi, everyone. Al DeMarco here, General Manager at DeMarcoSports.com. Listen, the complimentary plays, 2-0 sweep, including the Cowboys on Thursday, hit 4 out of 5 on Saturday, but yesterday, not too good. 1-4, cashed in with Michigan, but then Louisville played its absolute worst game. Well, not really. Maybe its second worst game of the season. I'd say the worst game for the Cardinals had to be the loss to Pittsburgh, but total epic defensive collapse in the second half at home yesterday against Kentucky, a costly loss for the Cardinals. Old Dominion, massive second half comeback at home from a double-digit deficit against Georgia State, but then they failed to cover by a point. And also lost with Alabama. Interesting finish against Auburn, that's for damn sure. And then the teaser, Kansas State and Louisville. I put the kibosh on both teams as they both lost the game outright. Now, my best bet yesterday, I've got to tell you something. I'm handicapping the Saturday card. It's like 3 or 4 in the morning, and my best bet I thought was going to be Michigan, the play that I gave to you. And then suddenly about 4 in the morning, I think Moses came down from the mountaintop. He tapped me on the shoulder. He said, forget about the 10 Commandments. You've broken half of them already. He said, look at the Territorial Cup, a game that I had not even considered all week long, Arizona State. And suddenly it was like I heard that little voice in my ear screaming, bet me, bet me, bet me. And I looked at that line, 12.5 points, and I thought, how the hell is Arizona not going to beat the hell out of Arizona State? They did. They won by 174 points, and that was my 15-dime best bet winner on the heels of Oregon on Friday night. So the Pac-12 continues to be good for me this season. And today, back to the NFL, my best bet, NFL best bet winner number 20 out of 31, and it's going to be the Eagles and Philadelphia. It happens to be the half-price play of the day over at DeMarcoSports.com. FYI, let me just give you a quick update. I told you yesterday that Rick Torino has been the hottest handicapper in college football over at the site over the past 2 years, since he joined the site 2 years ago. Rick T, that's what I've called him for years. Rick T did it again yesterday. 100-dime max wager releases. He is now 18-4 over the past 2 years since he joined the site. Friday night, it was Oregon. Yesterday, NC State, a 2.5-point home dog, beats the heck out of North Carolina, 39-20. And you've gotten every one of those releases for at least half price off. And by the way, this is the way you want to evaluate the handicappers, especially here at the site. A lot of guys in this industry will hide behind wins and losses because you can manipulate those records. And they'll put their records up for like the last 4 or 5 years. Inconsequential. What the hell does it mean to you? This is how you evaluate them. So if you look at the site today, Rick Torino's site, $10 bettors have won $18,270 over the last 118 days. That's in every sport. That's wins minus losses, including the VIG. Not a bad turnaround for a 4-month period. Nobody wins all the time. You look to turn a profit over a long haul. That's the key. The other guy you should be aware of today with the big play, Anson Munson. Yesterday, won for the 9th consecutive day. He's won 24 of the last 33 days. For him, $10 bettors in that 33-day period, they've won a little over $10,600. Yesterday, 100-dime max wager, his normal top-rated play. Number 10 out of 11 and 7 in a row, Michigan. Friday, it was Tulane. Today, the first 150-dime release, because he adheres to what I believe in, that when you're hot, you press the action. You raise the bar, so to speak. And that's what he's doing tonight. 150-dime play, first ever one. It's the Sunday night game between the Ravens and the Chargers. So I'm going to get to my free plays here in just a second. Just want to tell you a quick little story. I told bits and pieces of this over the last 20 years, but never the real story. So my father was president of a labor union. This has to do with gambling. My father was president of a labor union back in southeastern Pennsylvania, back in, when he was alive, back in the 80s. And we had it on reliable sources that our phones were tapped. Interesting. So I was not, and I'm gambling, so I could not gamble at home. Could not talk to my bookmaker at home. Couldn't call Danny the bookies at home. So every single day, especially every Saturday and Sunday morning, what I had to do was get my ass out of bed. And considering, I was single at the time, I usually wasn't getting in until 4 or 5 in the morning. We won't go into that story. That's for not for YouTube. But anyway, I'd get my ass out of bed. I'd get my roll of quarters, Yes, payphones only cost a dime back then. We didn't have cell phones, but I'd get quarters because I was going for the big calls. Head down to my local little phone booth. Those are the days that you actually used to go into the little phone booth like Superman and change. I'd have my reporter's notebook, which was like a steno pad, the size of an envelope. Have my reporter's notebook. I'd go in, I'd put my quarters in the phone, and then I'd start. Didn't matter if there was snow on the ground, it was raining or not, I'd start. I'd call the guys in Atlanta that I used to work with. They'd have their lines. They would then conference in a guy out in Los Angeles we used to work with. He'd have his lines from his California bookmaker. I'd have my lines from Danny the bookie in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. Together, we'd figure out what games we were betting, who had the best lines, and whoever had the best lines, that's which bookie we would bet our individual games through. I did that every single day because I couldn't bet at home because our phones were tapped. I also had to be very careful what I said to girls on the phone, but that's another story for another type of video. We'll just leave it at that. But yeah, by the way, if you ever need to have your car taken apart, and I'm talking about taking the seats out, my dad used to get a brand new company car every single year. If you ever have to have your car taken apart, we're talking about taking the seats out, the floorboards, the headboard, taking everything out of the trunk and looking for a bug or a wire, I am the guy to call. Just saying. We'll move on now to the complimentary place. That's a true story. I've taken a lot of cars apart in my life. But anyway, let's move on, shall we? Yeah. Complimentary plays. Let's start in reverse chronological order because I think the best bet here I'm going to give you is going to be Baltimore, minus the 3 at the Chargers. I don't get this line. I don't understand it. Naturally, I'm buying down the half point on the Ravens here. You know, by the way, both teams have blown 3 fourth quarter leads this season, tied with the Bills and the Packers for the most chokes in the fourth quarter in the NFL this year. I think it's advantageous that the Ravens have the extra rest by virtue of playing that Thursday night game against the Bengals last week. The defense had 6 sacks in that game. Now, true, they had 405 total yards, and that game is more known because that's the game that Joe Burrow had the injury. The bad news for the Ravens, they're 4-9 against the spread in the last 13 as a road chalk. Odell Beckham Jr. is a game-time decision. Mark Andrews, of course, their tight end, lost for the season after suffering that injury in the Cincinnati game. But what can you say about the Chargers? They're back home after that 3-point loss at Green Bay. Their defense allowed 397 yards. Devil's advocate would say, well, maybe the Packers aren't so bad. I don't believe that. The Chargers just can't play any defense. Their defense got even worse with Joey Bosa getting hurt in that game. Brandon Staley, their head coach, is on the hot seat. I just have to ride with the Ravens here. Again, I just think it's too cheap of a price. Kansas City is minus 9 today at the Raiders. I look at that Raiders game against Miami last week, and I lost, by the way, with the Dolphins last week. I watched that entire game. I mean, the Dolphins marched up and down the field. Now, you don't win a game on the box score, but the Dolphins outgained the Raiders 422 to 296. They had 21 first downs. The Raiders only had 12. The difference in that game is Miami had the 3 turnovers. That's why the Dolphins didn't win in that game handily. I look at Aiden O'Connell. Did I get his name? Yeah, Aiden O'Connell, the rookie quarterback out of Purdue. I never thought he had a big arm in college. I looked at some of the throws he made in that game. That guy's got a weak-ass arm. I think he's going to be a good career backup. I don't think he's your number 1 quarterback. I don't quite understand. I mean, I see why you're playing him because you got to see what you have, but this isn't Brock Purdy number 2. Okay, I look at the Chiefs, and I know they're coming off the Monday night loss. I know they were scoreless in the second half, but the defense did a great job. I mean, they held the Eagles to 238 total yards, and 41 of those yards came on a single play. You play that game 10 times, and Kansas City wins that game 9 times. I'm thrilled that my Eagles won that game, but they really didn't deserve to. Now, Kansas City has some issues here today because Kadarius Toney is going to be out. Hardman's going to be out. Jerick McKinnon is on the injured list. You know, your pass catchers, after you get by Taylor Swift's boyfriend, after you get by that, who do you have? Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco out of the backfield, Justin Watson, Noah Gray, Sky Moore, Valdez Scantling, the guy that dropped the ball. There's just not a lot out there. You know, I keep thinking to myself that when Tyreek Hill left the Chiefs, he said there were two reasons. One, he wasn't getting targeted enough, and two, he wasn't being shown the respect and getting the money that he deserved. Well, if you believe number one, you're crazy. It was all about number two. It's always about the money because, the bottom line, if you look at the number of targets that he received with the Dolphins last year in his first year with Miami, and you look at the number of targets he was given in his last year with the Chiefs, I think it was only like a difference of 12 or 13 targets. But Kansas City made a dire mistake when they didn't give Patrick Mahomes a top receiver in his stead because it just doesn't work. Still, I think the key here is that Kansas City defense is for real. They're going to put a lot of pressure on O'Connell, and I think that Kansas City will score enough to get the cover in this game. Plus, you see that Max Cosby, 10.5 sacks, he is listed as doubtful. Now, there was a report early this morning I saw, I think it was Ian Rappaport, said that Cosby is going to try his best. He hopes to play today. If so, he will be the first player on the official NFL injury report this season listed as doubtful to actually play. And if he plays, how effective is he going to be? Seriously, I think he's crazy. But I'm going with Kansas City here. Then on the early card, oh my God, I'm going to go with the Broncos. First time I'm going to take the Broncos all season. They're -1.5, but listen, they've won 4 in a row. They didn't deserve to win last week against the Vikings, but they did. A game in which Minnesota outgained them 385 to 295, had 6 more first downs, but Denver was +3 in turnovers. The defense that gave up 36.2 points a game the first 5 games of the season. Admittedly, that number is skewed by the 70 they gave up at Miami. Last 5 games, they've only given up an average of 17.5 points. And they played Kansas City twice in that stretch, right? Not too bad. They've won 3 straight at home. True, the Browns have won 3 straight, but they're going to go with Dorian Thompson-Robinson again, DTR, making his first road start. He, of course, started last week, game the one against the Steelers. But did the Browns win or did the Steelers lose? Or did anyone even care about that game? Let's be honest. Robinson's final numbers, 24 for 43, 165 yards, 1 interception. Not so good, right? 20 yards rushing. Okay, I'll give him that too. And they won 13 to 10. I'm going to go with Denver here and give the Broncos a shot. So again, if I had to rank these 3 plays, I would go with the Ravens number 1, Kansas City number 2, and then Denver number 3 for your complimentary plays. And then looking at the rest of the card, because we had the 3 games on Thursday, because we had the Dolphins-Jets game on Friday, there's not a lot of quality. There's not a lot of quantity today. Here, I'll run down the rest of the games for you here real quick. Houston and Jacksonville. I think that Houston is getting a lot of love from gamblers, and I can certainly see why. Do I believe Jacksonville is the better team? Yes. I can see why Houston is getting love from the bettors. It's a game, personally, I would stay away from. Tampa, Indianapolis. Why would you bet this game? Next, Giants and the Patriots. This, to me, is the who cares game of the week. Next, Carolina, Tennessee. If not for the Giants and Patriots, this would be the who cares game of the week. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Oh, they got rid of Matt Canada. Suddenly, the Steelers are going to score 25 points. The Steelers are the equivalent of the Iowa Hawkeyes in the NFL. Need I say more? Cincinnati, no Joe Burrow, no chance. I would probably take the Steelers in this game. New Orleans and Atlanta. Can there be a more underachieving team than the Saints, who I thought would be better offensively with Derek Carr coming into the fold? Certainly not. Atlanta switching quarterbacks again. I would lean toward the Saints, -2 there. Rams, Cooper Kupp is supposed to play. I hope he's healthy and he's available and he's playing better, at full strength. Matthew Stafford didn't look that good last week when the Rams rallied against Seattle. Seattle's no good, though. Arizona, I never know what you get from week to week with the Cardinals. I think the Rams are the play, but I'll tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me to see Arizona win this damn game, because I will say one thing. Jonathan Gannon, I thought he was overmatched as the Eagles defensive coordinator. Never liked him. But I will say that he definitely has his team pretty much on a regular basis, which if you think about that statement that I just said, that sentence, I had 3 different thoughts in one single clause. Generally has his team ready to play. And then you go to that's it. The other games are my best bet. So there's the rest of the NFL card for you. Listen, wish you well, guys. And I don't think I'll have a pick for the Monday night game because Minnesota, Chicago, I don't know. I don't care about the game. nor do I know who's going to win the game. So I'll probably skip that and go back to basketball for that, where I've won 7 straight. Why the hell do I want to waste my time on the Vikings Bears, right? Good luck, everybody. Talk to you soon.